Hello there guys, Francis Gray here, and today I've got a new model custom to show you all. This is Boris Karloff as Frankenstein from the classic Universal monster movies. This is basically Frankenstein from the first film, and you can tell that from the flower that he has in his left hand. If you've never seen the film, basically Boris Karloff, Frankenstein, throws flowers into a lake with a little girl. So that's basically just remembering that scene. This model was originally made by a company called Dimensional Designs and was part of their Midget Monsters lineup. Basically, that company made a bunch of different SD kits. SD stands for Super Deformed, so it's like little caricatures, I suppose, of all the other monsters from the classic movies. So obviously this is Boris Karloff's Frankenstein, which is probably the most iconic version of Frankenstein going. They're still using that likeness today and everything Frankenstein related. So yeah, so this was a commission. I was asked to make 3 monster models. The first one was Dracula, Bela Lugosi Dracula, which was also Midget Monsters. Then the second one was Nosferatu from the classic German silent movie, played by Max Schreck, I believe. And then the third one was this Boris Karloff Frankenstein. So yeah, so getting back to the model, there's great likeness of Boris Karloff there. Really well sculpted. Really nice, I suppose, all round pose. The base was quite simplistic, but it fitted this model really nicely. Originally, the kit, as far as I know, comes in 2 parts. Because I said this was a commission, so I had this sent to me. But when I got it, it was basically just the main figure of Frankenstein, and then the resin base, or the resin part of the base, separate. What I did with the base was, luckily, I had a wooden base that was roughly the same diameter as the resin base. So all I had to do was basically hot glue it into place, drilled 2 holes, and then mounted screws so the base isn't going to go nowhere. And then there was like a little millimetre shy going around here or there. So I just basically used Dave's epoxy and sculpted over, and then added some like little details to make it look like mud and rocks and stuff. Excuse me, and yeah, and then basically just built it up from there. The only other parts of the base that was scratch built that you don't get with the original is the reeds. Basically, because in the scene Frankenstein is near a lake, I figured there'd probably be reeds sticking out the ground. So what I did was I drilled 2 holes, put Abe's epoxy modelling clay in there while it was soft, took an old broom, cut some bristles off, stuck them in, let the clay harden, and then just added a few dabs of either super glue or PVA glue. I believe I used super glue. And yeah, and then just leave it to dry, and then they're nice and stuck in and solid, and they're not going to go nowhere. And then obviously just painted back over it again with dark browns, adding light brown effect, shading effect. And yeah, and then just went over with green scenic scatter, which is usually associated with model railways. And then yeah, you can't tell. So yeah, so I think the base turned out rather nice. Getting back to Frankenstein again, I haven't glued him in place because obviously I'll be shipping him out. So I added 2 pins at the bottom of his feet, and then there's 2 holes in the base itself. So basically, when the collector gets him back, he basically adds a little few dabs of super glue to the pegs and to the bottom of the boots, and then just sit him in place, and then he'll be nice and solid. So yeah, so this is the first time I've painted Frankenstein, so it was a bit tricky to get the skin tones quite right, because obviously he's got like a green complexion, but he's not like bright green. He's not like a dark green like the background or anything. It's more like a flesh colour / green. So basically, that's what I did. I just took some regular flesh colour paint, and then added a slight mix of green, give it a really good shake, and then use that as like my foundation, like skin, I suppose, and then built up around that all the shading, and and then basically just repainted like the cuts where like I had a little bit of bruising effect around there, and then obviously a lot of shading on the eyes to make them like a bit more sunken in, a little bit of shading on top of the brow there because he has a like protruding brow, and and then around the mouth as well. Painted the ends of his fingers like a black dry brush, and then went over with the fingernails with proper like matte black. Basically, every image of Frankenstein out there has that, so I decided to go with it and do it as it should be. And once the skin tones were all done, I just basically went over with a matte varnish to seal it all, and then went over with a gloss varnish over the eyes to give them like a wet look, and then a little tiny bit on the mouth to represent just like a bit of moisture there. And then just painted all the other details like the hair, the little steel staple, and obviously the bolt on the neck, and the stitching on the cuts on the hands. Yeah, so yeah, I really enjoyed working on this one. I'm looking forward to doing more Frankensteins at some point. The suit, I just went with. He seems to have like a black vest, and then he's like the rest of his clothes is like a dark grey, but he kind of has like it looks a bit like worn or a bit scruffy. So basically, I just went over with like a dry brush effect with like a mushroom grey, which basically just highlights all the ends, makes them look like the worn and the fading a little bit. So yeah, so that turned out rather nice. Kept the boots matte black, same again, a tiny little bit of dry brush on there just to bring out some of the highlights, and then just painted the flower. So the flower started off as a mushroom grey. Then I went over with some shading to add like a little pink effect, because these flowers always seem to be like a pinkish in the middle. Did the ends white, and then just did the inside yellow. So the flower turned out more or less as it's supposed to be. And yeah, same again, just sealed it all with matte varnish. So yeah, so I'm really happy how this turned out. I hope I did the character justice. If you like it, please click the like button, share on Facebook and Twitter, guys, because it helps new people find my channel, which I'm always appreciative of. Thank you very much. And please don't forget to subscribe so you can see all their future model kit builds and statue reviews and modelling tips and stuff like that. And nothing else to say, but thank you for watching and see you next time. Thank you very much and goodbye.